Constant tightness in my chest, tears rolling, and that invariable look of worry on my parents' face. And that is what I remember from my childhood years.
The continuous clicking in my left knee, the snapping, the cracking, the pain. That is all that I recall of my younger days.
I was not the only one. Today, an estimated 300 million people worldwide suffer from this common yet deadly respiratory disease that I was diagnosed with. And this was asthma.
I was not alone, as a lot of people are born with my disorder. I was diagnosed with intra-articular knee disorder. The disorder meant that I was partially missing ligaments in my knee. The thought of this was something that really got in my head.
It really pushed me both mentally and physically.
It put me in a position where, at a young age, I was feeling restricted.
It felt like I was behind bars.
It felt as if the disorder was going to limit my life in terms of how I lived it. I felt as if the disorder was going to ruin who I was as a son,
as a sibling,
and as a person.
I remember the exact day. My physician explained to me to not exert myself, to prevent the shortness of breath and my rapid breathing.
I remember my mother asking the doctor, "What exactly can my son do in order to not let this affect his life?" She knew how I felt. I wanted to live my life to the fullest, and she was so very sure of that. So, I decided to take the risk.
It was a few years into my life that I found out.
And soon enough, it hit me. I was broken.
As I began to grow up, I realized that the only way to take my mind off my conflict, my condition, my disease, was to find my passion.
Find the one and only thing that could allow me to forget. I needed to forget. Forget everything. Forget all that had happened. Forget what had gone through my mind. I just had to forget. There was no other way.
And to be quite frank with you, my passion was found pretty easily.
It just sort of clicked with me.
My passion changed my life.
My passion changed who I was. My passion was sports.
Now tell me,
what's your passion?
Filmmaking.
That's so cool. And what's your passion?
Teaching.
That's amazing.
You see, life is truly about constructing and living experiences. Just have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Focus on your education. Focus on your learning, and your grades will follow. Through doing this, you'll be able to find the true path in life that you desire.
But life is twisty and full of turns. It's not always possible to follow your passion. For instance, with a weak knee, there's a chance that I'll never be a professional athlete in the future. And that's a realization that doesn't sit easy, trust me. Even saying it makes me feel uncomfortable.
But that doesn't mean your passion isn't useful. It can be used to find your true purpose.
Take for a minute the image that asks us to consider 4 different questions.
Do you love it? Are you great at it?
Notice, these sound a lot like passion.
Does the world need it? And are you paid for it?
And we can consider how these questions overlap with each other. If you love something and you're good at it, then it's probably your passion. But if there's something you're good at and you can get paid for it, that's probably a good profession for you, independent of whether or not you love it.
This is extremely important to remember, especially in an environment where there's so much pressure to know what you want to do at 15, 16, 17, 18 years of age. You see, you don't have to love your job. Sometimes you just have to do a job that's offered because you need to provide for your family or for yourself.
And we can't forget that there's dignity in this. There's dignity in waking up every day to go to a job that you don't necessarily love. But sadly, that isn't the image that the media paints, in which everyone seems to love their job and live the perfect life. The reality is that, according to a seminal Gallup poll, only 13% of workers feel engaged by their jobs.
And this is okay. You don't have to be passionate about your job. Most people aren't. You're under no obligation to chase that picture-perfect lifestyle that's portrayed in the media. Instead, you can find enjoyment and pleasure when you go home for the day.
The same sentiment is also true for vocations. which stem from something that the world needs and something that you can get paid for. The world needs police officers, zookeepers, teachers, welders. The list goes on. They fulfill a need that society has.
And they make a living while doing it. This brings us to your mission, which might be something that you're never paid for doing, but it stems from a need that you recognize in this world. And you love it.
Missions can be things like our school mottos: practicing compassion, making a difference, learning for life. They can also be tangible representations of these ideas, however, such as beach cleanups, tutoring, fundraising for those in need, caring for people with disabilities, even opening youth organizations for the betterment of the young.
Sometimes, though, something miraculous happens.
Sometimes, something just happens to fall perfectly into place.
Sometimes you can find something that you love and are great at, that the world needs, and you're paid for it.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, this combination of all four is what we call purpose.
So here's a suggestion to you.
Start with passion. What's something you're good at? What's something you love?
For me, this was baseball.
Next, consider whether or not the world needs it.
This one may be debatable, but I would say yes, baseball, sports, it is something that the world needs. It trains your mind, it trains your body, and it's enjoyable.
And finally, this one is very important. Can you be paid for it? Are you going to get paid for it?
No. So for me, baseball isn't my purpose. But that doesn't mean my passion can't inform my purpose.
For instance, Rian here, he could try to become a youth coach. This too, particularly in high needs areas, is something that the world needs. In addition, it's something he's good at, it's something he loves, and he can make a living off of it.
With all of this in mind, we would like to leave you with a final thought. Starting with the fact that there's no such thing as the blueprint of life. You can't plan it. It's physically and literally impossible with all of its variability. It depends on you, and only you. Have the confidence in yourself to take the chance of creating your own course and destiny. Reach out to your dreams, and don't just blindly follow the well-trodden trail.
Mark Zuckerberg, Harvard dropout.
Steve Jobs, 2.65 GPA graduate.
Bill Gates, initial business failure.
These are just some of the many people that, despite coming across many dead ends, found their passion, turned it into a purpose, and completely revived their lives.
Mark Zuckerberg went on to create one of the world's most recognized social media platforms.
Steve Jobs went to establish one of history's most successful technology companies.
Bill Gates went on to inaugurate one of the most impactful corporations we've ever seen.
All of this, all these accomplishments were achieved through finding one single purpose.
We have one life to live. How exhilarating is the feeling that you are the one who has the power to choose how to live it. Once that exclusive path is chosen, the rest unfolds. Don't be trapped by the voices of your friends, your parents, dogmas. If you really and truly want it, then go out there yourself and get it.
And as Randy Pausch once said, it is not the things that we do in life that we regret on our deathbed. It is the things that we do not. Thank you.